A very good evening and welcome to Prime Time News. I'm Sonali Vanigababige. We're coming to you live and direct from the Capital Maharaja Organisation head office here in Braybrook Place, Colombo 2, where just before me you can see the relief efforts that are being undertaken in order to provide relief to those affected by the drought in 14 districts of the island. Of course, we will be taking a closer look at this story and more. But first, here's a look at the stories making the headlines tonight.
Drought continues to batter communities in 14 districts. Donations continue to flow in for the Sirasa Shakti Sahana Yatra initiative to provide relief to the drought affected. Court issues injunction order calling for an immediate halt of the ongoing health strike. Removal of illegal propaganda officers in the Uva province underway.
The public response to the Sirasa Shakti Sahana Yatra program organised by the Capital Maharaja Organisation Limited to provide relief to those affected by the drought in 14 districts has been overwhelming. Donations are being collected at 3 drop-off points in Colombo, Ratmalana and Depanama. Good Samaritans flocked to the premises today as well, bringing in their donations.
People have been arriving in numbers since this morning to drop off their donations at the MTV-MBC head office on Braybrook Place, Colombo 2. Donations include bottled water, rice, dal, milk powder, canned fish and sugar.
Lakshmi and financial interview.
The entire nation should be happy that such an endeavour has been undertaken on behalf of the innocent poverty-stricken people.
එක පළාතක ජනතාවක් දුක් විඳින්නේ අපි හොඳින් ඉන්න එක හරි මදි.
සිරස අත ගැහුවොත් ඒක ਸਰව ප්‍රකාරයෙන්ම සාර්ථකයි.
එකිනෙකාගේ දුක් කරදරගෙන අඳුනාගෙන ඒ අයට උදව් කරලා ජීවත් වෙන්න ඕනේ.
එහෙ ඉන්නේත් මේ වගේ අසරණ වෙච්ච දරුවෝ. ඒක නිසා ඉතින් අපේ යුතුයකමක් තියෙනවා මේ වගේ උදව්වක් කරන්න.
මං හිතුවා මමත් මොන හරි දෙන්න ඕනි කියලා.
වතුර බෝතලේ හැරි ගෙනහලා දෙනවා නම් අර අසරණ මිනිස්සු හැමදාම ඔයගොල්ලෝ පෙන්නන්නේ.
කෙලින්ම ගිහිල්ලා උන්ට දෙන්න බැරි වුණත් අපිට ඔයගොල්ලෝ තුමන්ලා හරහා ගිහිල්ලා අපිට දෙන්න පුළුවන්. මම හිතනවා ඉතාමත් හොඳ කාර්යයක් කරන්නේ.
සිරස කරන්නේ ලොකු සේවයක්. මේ අපිත් ඒකට දායකත්වයක් දෙන්න හිතුවා.
මේ සිරස විසින් කරගෙන යන මේ වැඩසටහන ඉතාමත් කාලීනයි. ඒ නිසා තමයි අපි හිතුවේ මේකට උදව් කරන්න ඕනේ කියලා.
එතන ආවට පස්සේ 아무තම හැංගීමක් අපිට ඇති වෙනවා. හරි මේ වගේ මිනිස්සු ප්‍රයිස්තාගේ සීල මිනිස්සු මෙච්චර ඉන්නවද කියලා ලංකාවේ අපිට හිතෙනවා.
අපේ යුතුයකම ඉටු කරා. ඔබත් ඇවිල්ලා මේ සිරසත් එක්ක සත්කාරයට ඉටු සහභාගී වෙන්න කියලා අපි කරුණාවෙන් ඉල්ලා සිටිනවා.
අපේ රටේ දුක් විඳින මිනිස්සු වෙනුවෙන් ඕගොල්ලන් කරන මේ සත්කාරයට ඇත්තටම ගොඩාක් බෙහෙවින්ම අපි ස්තුතිවන්ත වෙන්න ඕනේ. ගොඩක් පින් ඕගොල්ලන්ට.
අපිට තනියම කරන්න බෑ. මේම සිරසින් කරන මේ දේ ලොකු පුණ්‍ය කටයුත්තක් කියලා සලකනවා.
An entrepreneur who visited the MTV-MBC head office at Braybrook Place, Colombo 2 this morning made a cash donation of 1 million rupees for the Sirasa Shakti Sahana Yatra program.
Shakti FM
I listen to Shakti FM all the time, and that is how I was made aware of the Sahana Yatra program. That is why I have made this donation. I am grateful to Shakti FM for doing this.
Nandri Shakti FM kum nandri.
Donors also flocked to the drop-off point at the MTV-MBC studio complex at Arlia Uina in Depanama, Pandipitia.
සාමාන්‍ය මිනිස්සුන්ට කරගන්න බැරි දෙයක් සිරසෙන් මේ කරන එක ගැන සිරසට ගොඩාක් ස්තුතිවන්ත වෙනවා.
සන්තෝෂයි මේ කරපු මේ කරන කාර්යයට.
එදා ඉඳලම හොඳ වැඩක් කරුවොත් කරන්න සිරසම තමයි.
Philanthropists also came to the third drop-off point at Stein Studios on 2nd Cross Street off Burupana Road in Ratmalana.
පිටත් ඉතින් හිතුණා ඉතින් මේ වගේ දෙයකට උදව් කරන්න ඕන කියලා.
අපි අපිට හැකි හැයුරින් උදව් කරා. මම අනිත් ජනතාවගෙනුත් ඉල්ලා සිටිනවා හැකි උපරිමයෙන් අසරණ ජනතාවට උදව් කරන්න කියලා.
Arrangements have also been made to collect donations from donors outside Colombo. You can also help in the Sirasa Shakti Sahanayatra drought relief program by providing transport facilities including lorries and buses required to transport the donations to the drought affected areas. For more information on the Sirasa Shakti Sahanayatra program, call us on 0114 896 896.
At this time, we call upon the ordinary citizens and also the business community in Colombo to extend the spirit of fraternity to our fellow people by contributing essential items or by donating whatever you can.
Good Samaritans, not just from Colombo but all across the island, are continuing to bring in their donations to the MTV MBC head office in Colombo for the Sirasa Shakti Sahanayatra initiative organized by the Capital Maharaja Organization Limited. Newsfirst Ramesh Irugal Bandar is also in the building precincts and he joins us now with the very latest.
Well, thank you, Sonali. We called out to you and Sri Lanka has responded. All these goods that you see here are donations made by benefactors to those who are in dire need of it. Now this relief aid will go to the people most affected, or the over 2 million people affected in 14 districts in dire need of water. All these water bottles, all these dry rations are stuff that was brought into the MTV MBC head office here in Colombo too by generous benefactors. There are 3 drop-off points for the Sirasa Shakti Sahanayatra program. The MTV MBC head office in Colombo too is just 1 point. We are also collecting donations at the Stein Studios in Ratmalana as well as the MBC studio complex over in Depanama. Now, the Capital Maharaja organization commenced the Sirasa Shakti Sahanayatra program yesterday morning at 9 o'clock, and this is how Sri Lanka has responded. There have been many generous benefactors who have been coming in to donate goods. Among them was the Mahabodhi Society, who made a very generous donation as well.
Not a new thing for Sri Lanka or for Shakti and Maharaja organization during when the last tsunami when occurred in year 2004, I suppose. The same thing has, the relief activities have been taken place organized by the Maharaja organization and Sirasa TV, Shakti TV and others. So this time also when the people, who produce the food for us, they are suffering right now. So it's our duty to help them back. In very near future, within few days time, we have to open many other centers throughout Sri Lanka because people are very much interested and they are looking forward to help the people.
You just saw the visuals of the unfortunate situation faced by one household. Nearly 2 million persons are facing this exact same issue. They have not received rains for 2 seasons, but these communities have been suffering from the hardships that have been a result of this, the drought that has been, of course, affecting 14 districts in Sri Lanka. While politicians battle for the votes of the people of Uva, this is the story about a group of such voters and how they have lost all faith about a better tomorrow.
Karunatilaka, his mother, wife and 2 children who are residing in the Madalagama area in Pubudugawa Vallavaya depend on the farmlands that have been handed down from generation to generation. Karunatilaka grows alternative crops in a 2-acre plot of land because the area has not received rain in 2 seasons.
Around 550 families in the Pubudu River, such as this one, have been severely and economically affected by the drought, and these are our fellow countrymen. This is the time they need our help the most.
ගේලා කන්න කෑමට කිසිම දෙයක් නැහැ. ඉතින් දැන් මොන හරි කන්න බොන්නවත් අපිට ටිකක් 3-5 හාල් ටිකක් හරි ලැබෙනවා නම්
අපිට ඉතින් කාගේ හරි පීටක් ලැබෙනවා නම් හොඳයි. ඉතින් ඔයිතරම් බතක් කරගන්නකම් කෙනෙක් උදව්වක් කරනවා නම් ලොකුම දෙයක් ඒක අපිට. වතුර ටිකක්වත් අපිට නැහැ.
Communities residing in 9 villages, including Pubudugawa, Handapanagala, Taradigama, Ulkanda, Madagala, receive water from the Handapanagala lake and 9 smaller tanks. Because these areas have not received water for a period of 9 months, they have to walk long distances to obtain water. Officials have handed over a 500-litre water tank as drought relief to the area residents. These visuals show that the residents living in villages that fall under the purview of the Pubudugawa Divisional Secretariat are not only suffering from the drought but are also faced with other challenges. Communities in these areas earn their living by growing peanuts, sugarcane, corn, bananas, lime and oranges. Their cultivations both in the Yala and Maha seasons were destroyed. This is the helpless situation that they have been left as they have also obtained loans from banks and are unable to repay the debts.
The residents of Kabithigolava are suffering much the same fate as those in Vallavaya. They too are spending their days at present with no hope for the future.
This stove, which has not been touched by fire for several days, bears testament to the effect the severe drought has had on these people. More than 1,500 people from villages including Yakavava, Kanugahava, Gonamariava, Halmilnavatiya, Nikavava, Talgahava and Bihara Halmillava are feeling the effects of the drought.
No matter where you look in this area, all you see is barren dry land. I am now at the heart of the Yaka River in Kabithigolava. The locals in the area solely depend on the Yaka River for their needs. However, this tank that provided water to over 200 acres of farmland has dried up. Adding to the tragedy of the lack of water, these people now find themselves in dire need of food for sustenance.
වතුරත් නැහැ නාන්නත් නැහැ ඉතින් අඩුපාඩු කුලී වැඩක් නැහැ ඉතින් ගොවිතැන් කරගන්න ඇති දැන බොහොම අමාරුවෙන් තමයි ජීවත් වෙන්නේ
We have nothing.
What meager amounts of water they receive involves a trek that has taken a visible toll on their physical well-being. The people note that the Divisional Secretariat fills either 1 or 2 of the 1,000-litre water tanks placed in each village once a week.
මේකේ වතුර ඉවරුනහම වතුර නෑ ආයිති එනකන් කොයි වෙලාවෙ හරියක් බලාගෙන ඉන්න ඕනේ වතුර එනකන්
It is our view at Newsfirst that at this time when the drought has captured the attention of the nation, now is the time to provide some relief for our fellow Sri Lankans who have been driven to despair.
Residents of Kilinochchi have also been facing the direct effects of the drought over the past 10 months. They too are facing unfathomable hardships.
The residents of the Ponnagar area in Kilinochchi have been severely affected by the drought. Officials have been working tirelessly to meet the water requirements of these people by setting up water tanks along the road from Ponnagar to East Akkarayan and periodically filling them with water. The lack of a drop of water in wells has also caused mental stress for these area residents.
I am in the Akkarayaya area. When we obtained water from this well, we were only able to get mud water. One cannot take a bath, drink or utilize this water.
We continued on our journey towards Punagiri and we witnessed the current state of the Vaneri tank. The lack of water in this tank has affected both agricultural and fishing activities. On our journey, we were also able to witness the manner in which people were purchasing water in the Telikare area. The people who have been helpless have been forced to purchase water for their daily requirements, and they told us that their situation has been worsening on a daily basis.
People living in drought-stricken areas shared their hardships with Newsfirst reporters.
ඒකත් ඉවරනම් පස්සේ දාන්න ටිකක් සපයා ගන්න හම්බෙන්න මනුස්සෙන්ට. වේලක් આવුත් අපිට වේලක් ගන්න නෑ අපිට වීයට කාලට මොකවත් ජීවිතේට නෑ.
ඒගොල්ලෝ ඇත්තටම එක වේලක් කාලා ගෙවල් දෙකක් බඩගිනින අවස්ථා තියෙනවා. අපිට ඉගෙන ගන්න පොත්පත් ගන්න අම්මලා ගත්තේ සල්ලිත් නෑ.
ඉතින් අපි මෙච්චර දවස් හිතුවේ ජීවත් වුණේ එහෙම මෙහෙම නේ. හාල් ටික අරගෙන තමයි ඉන්නේ. අපිට වතුර පොඩ්ඩක්වත් නෑ, කෑමක් නෑ.
හදිසියකට මිනිස්සෙක් ගෙදරට ආවත් වතුර ටිකක් දෙන්න නැති වෙලාවල් තියෙනවා.
නිමුලා ගොතන් යද්දි ගොතන බඩක් මුකුත් නෑ අපිට. එහෙනම් අපිට එක්කත් ඔක්කොම මැරිලා ගියා. වතුරෙන් තමයි අපි දුක් විඳින්නේ. අපිට නෑ කෙසේටත් බීමටවත් අපිට කිසිම තරක් නෑ. දරුවෝ 4 දෙනෙක් ඉන්නවා. පවුලත් එක 5 දෙනෙක් ඉන්නවා. අපි බොහොම ජීවත් වෙන්නේ.
දරුවන්ට දැන් හෙට අනිද්දා ඉස්කෝලේ පටන් ගත්තාම පොතක් පතක් ගන්න නෑ. කුලී වැඩක්
පොඩි ළමයෙකුට ඉස්කෝලේ යන්නවත් පොතක් පැන්සලක් ගන්නවත් අපි අතේ සල්ලි නෑ. කන්න දෙක තුනක්ම වගා පාළු වුණා.
මම ඉතින් කන්න බොන්න හැම දෙයක්ම මගේ හිරයි වතුර ටික නෑ බොන්න නිකම් මොකටද නේ ඉඳලා මැරිලා යයි.
The Newsfirst U-Report workshop, which was due to be held at the IDM Hall in Putlam this Sunday, has been postponed as a result of the Sirasa Shakti Sahanayatra program. Newsfirst apologizes to anyone who was looking forward to this program, and we regret any inconvenience caused. We request all our viewers to join us in this Sirasa Shakti Sahanayatra initiative in order to provide aid to those affected by the drought.
The UN Refugee Agency says that the Syrian war is getting worse day by day as more than 3 million people have been registered as refugees inside Syria alone. More details on this story coming up on the Newsfirst International Desk.
Well, the removal of illegal campaign officers in the Uva province has commenced. Commissioner of Elections Mahinda Deshapriya said that officials of the commission, with the assistance of the police, are engaging in these activities.
The Election Secretariat has so far received 84 complaints pertaining to the violation of election laws ahead of the Uva Provincial Council polls. Out of these complaints, 14 complaints are related to the utilizing of government officers for election activities. When looking at the statistics on election-related complaints, there are 4 complaints by the UPFA, while there are 2 complaints by the UNP, 13 complaints have been lodged by the JVP, and 3 complaints have been lodged by the Democratic Party, whereas other complaints were lodged by other parties. Meanwhile, removal of illegal propaganda officers in the areas between Munaragala and Vallavaya took place today. The Elections Commissioner stated that even though officers were removed earlier, parties tend to reconstruct such officers. Deshapriya stated that legal action will be taken against such persons if such actions continue.
කෙසේ වෙතත් මොනරාගල ආශ්‍රිත ප්‍රදේශවල ඊයේ රාත්‍රී කාලයේ සිට පොලිස් විසින් මාර්ග බාධකතා වාහන පරීක්ෂා කරනවා.
We were able to witness the manner in which the police erected checkpoints in certain areas in the Monaragal area last night. When we were touring the Bibile area this afternoon, we were able to witness several checkpoints in the area. During the evening time, we travelled in the Mahiyangania area and we did not see any police checkpoints. When talking about election violence, an unidentified group attacked an office of an independent political party in Buttala. The Buttala police stated that an investigation will be launched to look into the incident.
සම්බන්ධ ඉදිරියට පරීක්ෂණ කටයුතු කරගෙන යන බවයි.
විශේෂයෙන්ම අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ මේ මැතිවරණයේදී ඉදිරි
We are hoping to increase the number of police officers for the upcoming PC polls and take measures to minimize election violence and violation of election laws.
විශේෂයෙන්ම ශනික මාර්ග බාධක යෙදවීමට බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා හඳුනාගත් ස්ථානවල.
Meanwhile, a special meeting between the Elections Commissioner and members of the JVP took place today.
අප විසින් පෙන්වා දෙනු ලැබුවා අද වන විට අපේ ලංකාවේ බොහෝ පිරිසක් විදේශගතව
We highlighted that there are a number of Sri Lankans overseas who are unable to cast their votes. We suggested that the Election Commissioner must take measures to address the issue. We stated that by holding discussions with us, we could help develop a proper policy and a proper procedure. Furthermore, the Democratic Party held a public rally at the Hambegamo junction in Tanamalvila. During this occasion, the motor vehicle which came under terrorist attack during Sarath Fonseca's tenure as the army commander was put on display for the first time.
Our special segment Battle for War is up next.
They engage in businesses that destroy the country and gather fortunes. Then they spread these fortunes to distribute farming equipment, salaries, kitchen utensils and liquor. We cannot do that. We have never stolen from anyone and we have never cheated anyone. We do not receive salaries. We simply carry out our activities for you. What is left is criticism. That is the only thing they can put forward. They are attempting to create a revolution in Sri Lankan politics. They are acting like they have woken up from a deep slumber. They are acting as if they have never been in power. Do not allow them to take your votes and put you in trouble. The country is at a critical juncture. We are kindly requesting you to remember that you have the responsibility to steer this country to a direction and change the system. The main responsibility of the government is to provide the basic needs of the public. So it is right to impose taxes on food. No other country imposes tax on food and drinks. So are we to give votes to leaders who impose tax on food and drinks? Don't we have to change this? Under the JVP rule, we will remove such taxes. When they come into power, the only change that can be expected is the halting of the renovation of roads. There will be electricity cuts. Drinking water programs will be halted. If this meeting was being held during the war period, I would not be able to speak to you all like this.
Our investigative journalism segment Action TV is up next.
While Action TV was covering a raid carried out by police and forest conservation officers on the illegal felling of a kumbuk tree in the Kotavera Gramanildara division in Ampara on Wednesday, a group of members of the Mahasangha who were displeased with the previous expose carried by Action TV on a similar incident visited the divisional secretariat in Ampara. The monks were displeased with the matter where Action TV had noted on the 17th of this month that actions of the divisional secretary with regard to the bundling of wood from a felled kumbuk tree in the Kotavera Gramanildara division should be brought to the attention of the Minister of Public Administration and Home Affairs. While this report was to do with the duties of the Ampara Divisional Secretary, it was not one which inconveniences the Divisional Secretary. A letter addressed by the Divisional Secretary dated the 7th of August was subject to sharp scrutiny by Action TV against a backdrop where an organised effort was underway to burn the trunks of kumbuk trees in reserves and sanctuaries in the Ampara Administrative Division near the roots to entice the trees to collapse. Regardless of the reasons, divisional secretaries are vested with the power to grant permits for fallen trees to be chopped up for use as timber. That power should not be used to enable timber racketeers who employ cunning methods to entice trees to collapse. While the monks in question were submitting a letter to the Divisional Secretary on Wednesday, noting that the Action TV expose on the 17th of August had hurt the Divisional Secretary's image, at the scene of the raid, not far from the Divisional Secretariat, 4 persons who were involved in the bundling of timber from the fallen kumbuk tree presented 2 letters which had the signature of the Divisional Secretary. If the police and forest conservation officers did not arrive here in time, it is possible that both this tree and another tree in close proximity would have been felled. This is because the two letters bearing the signature of the divisional secretary cover 3 trees. It must also be mentioned that when the police and forest conservation officers arrived at the scene, 3 persons involved in cutting down this tree fled the area.
කැපුම් අවසරයක් දෙන්නේ නැහැ නේ. එයාට දෙන්න බෑ. එයාට දෙන්න බෑ. අපි කවදාවත් මේක පිළිගන්නේ මේකේ අර මුළු පිටපත ටික සංසන්දනය කරලා සත්‍ය පිටපත් කියලා සත්‍ය පිටපත් දාලා සාහිත්‍ය කරට පස්සම අපි
Since the letters issued by the divisional secretary do not permit the cutting down of trees, the 4 individuals were arrested and later released on police bail on the condition that they appear in court on the 2nd of September. If letters bearing their signature are being misused, then it is the responsibility of any wise and knowledgeable individual to make inquiries.
In business news tonight, the Central Bank of Sri Lanka says inflation in the month of August was 3.5%, a reduction of 0.1% from July. The inflation rate, which had been declining gradually since January this year, had shown some increase in July. However, as per data released by the Central Bank, inflation dipped again in August. Professionals affiliated to the United National Party say that victories cannot be expected through the UNP Leadership Council. Attorney at Law Gunaratna Vaninayaka, the former secretary of the UNP-affiliated National Lawyers Association, questions whether the true UNP faithful can be steered to victory by a leadership council in which the majority of members are outsiders who have come from various other parties.
The United National Party Leadership Council has become a bankrupt organization. Those in the Leadership Council are persons who are cut off from the umbilical cord of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party. For example, persons like Vijay Dasa Rajapaksa, Ravi Karunanayaka and Mangala Samaravira make up the majority of the Leadership Council. These individuals in the Leadership Council have no feelings whatsoever towards the UNP. We believe that decisions regarding the leadership of the United National Party should be made by people cut from the umbilical cord of the UNP who have heritage in the UNP. At the same time, we say that Karuja Surya, who is from the UNP, is a person who violated the sanctity of the party. Even these traitors can leave the UNP if needed. There is no doubt whatsoever that the victory of the UNP will be ensured once they leave. In 1977 too, there was a leadership crisis in the United National Party, and at that time the political leaders including E.L. Senanayaka, E.L.B. Hurulle and Montich Jayavikrama were telling J.R. Jayawardena that he should not appoint R. Premadasa as the deputy leader of the party. But at that moment, Ranil Wickramasinghe's father, a consummate journalist, advised J.R. Jayawardena to give the position of deputy leader to R. Premadasa. This duo was able to transform a crisis into a victory and ushered in the victorious era of 1970. The ushering in of this victorious era was enabled by appointing R. Premadasa as the deputy leader of the party.
The strike action launched by the Joint Trade Union Council of Professions Supplementary to Medicine continued into its 4th day today, severely inconveniencing patients at a number of public hospitals. Professions Supplementary to Medicine cover a broad gamut of medical professionals, including pharmacists, radiologists and physiotherapists, among others.
17th January 2014, protests calling for nurses' labour room training to be continued. 11th February 2014. Minor staff at several hospitals on strike. Health service officials on strike. Strike concludes after 11 days. Employees in 47 grades stage a sick note campaign. Nurses and midwives conflict drags on. Supplementary medical professionals on strike. 2 health sector trade unions launch a strike. Supplementary medical professionals on strike. Health sector employees have staged a strike every month. Where does the mistake lie? According to reports of the Ministry of Health, the expense borne on a daily basis to provide medicinal drugs for patients is in excess of 55 million rupees. This is what the government pays for drugs and devices. The market value of these items is far higher. If it is estimated that the market value is about 30% higher than what the state pays, then the estimated cost that the people have been burdened with for the duration of the strike is 72.44 million rupees per day. Considering the strike was held over 4 days, the burden on the public amounts to 289.8 million rupees. Why was the public forced to bear such an enormous cost? It is very difficult. I will have to stay in pain and come on another. I came here over the last 3 to 4 days and the doctors gave me a prescription to be filled at the OPD. But when I went there, they said the medication is not being dispensed and that I should buy it privately. I don't have the money to do that. In spite of the delays on the part of the Ministry of Health to resolve the matter and bring an end to the 4-day-long strike, the District Court of Colombo today issued an injunction order preventing the strike from continuing after considering a petition filed by a patient being treated at the National Hospital in Colombo. Appearing for the plaintiff, President's Counsel Faiza Mustafa and attorneys at law Isurupala Patabandi, Pulasti Rupasinghe and Navuda Wijayaratna submitted that the trade unions are engaged in a trade union action in a manner which deprives the rights of the plaintiff to receive the healthcare services provided by the state. The interim injunction is in effect for 14 days.
The UN says Syria is now the biggest humanitarian emergency of our era, with more than 3 million Syrians living out of the country as refugees. With details of this story and much more making global headlines, Newsfirst Zulfiq Farzan joins us now.
Good evening and welcome to the Newsfirst International Desk. The UN's refugee agency says that more than 3 million Syrian people are now registered as refugees, and the desperate crisis is only getting worse. The UNHCR says Syria is now the biggest humanitarian emergency of our era, with almost half of all Syrians forced to flee their homes. The majority of refugees have fled to countries neighboring Syria, with 1.14 million now seeking shelter in Lebanon. More than 190,000 have been killed in Syria's 3-year civil war. Opposition groups in Syria have been fighting forces loyal to President Bashar al-Assad since his government suppressed protests against his rule in March 2011. The situation has been worsened in recent months by the formation and advance of the Islamic State group, which now controls large swaths of Syria and Iraq. The UN has said the Al-Qaeda-linked Al-Nusra Front are being accused of seizing 43 UN peacekeepers in the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights and trapping another 81 in the same region. The US said yesterday it believed members of the Nusra Front were among those who captured 43 Fijian soldiers serving in the UN Disengagement Observer Force near Quneitra, a crossing from Syria into Israeli-occupied territory. A further 81 soldiers from the Philippines are understood to be under siege near Rowena. The Philippine government said its troops refused to give up their weapons when confronted. The capture and the standoff come after Syrian rebels, including Nusra Front fighters, stormed Quneitra crossing on Wednesday, sparking an exchange of fire with Israeli troops. Ukraine's pro-Moscow separatists have agreed to let encircle Ukrainian government forces to leave rebel-held strongholds, following intervention from Russian President Vladimir Putin. The move came hours after Putin issued a statement published on the Kremlin's website overnight, urging the separatists to avoid unnecessary casualties. The Ukrainian military said in a statement published today that Putin's call testified of only one thing: these people are led and controlled directly from the Kremlin. According to the rebels, up to 7,000 Ukrainian troops are trapped at several locations in the Donbas region. Ukraine said yesterday that the rebels had captured Novozog with the help of Russian troops who had crossed over into Ukraine in up to 100 tanks along with heavy weaponry. Russia dismissed the allegations, describing the fighters as Russian volunteers. The Kremlin has repeatedly denied arming and supporting the separatists who have been battling Ukrainian troops for 4 months in the gravest crisis between Russia and the West since the end of the Cold War. The Icelandic Met Office has raised its aviation warning level near a volcano to red after an eruption began overnight. Civil protection officials said Icelandic air traffic control had closed the airspace above the eruption up to a height of 5,000 feet. The volcano has been hit by several recent tremors. Until now, the Met Office has kept its aviation warning level, indicating the potential threat of volcanic activity to air travel at orange, its second highest. Yesterday, scientists said they were examining several cauldrons found near Bautabunga volcano that could potentially be a sign of an eruption.
In sports news tonight, it's cricket. Manager of the Sri Lanka national cricket team, Michael de Souza, says there is a possibility that Dhammika Prasad will be included in the team that will face Pakistan in the third ODI in Dambulla tomorrow.
The third and final ODI of Pakistan's tour of Sri Lanka will work off tomorrow at the Dambulla International Cricket Stadium. Both teams are tied on 1-1 in the ODI series, making tomorrow's third ODI the decider. The pitch is very different to Hambantota. We believe it will be conducive for pace bowlers, but we cannot be 100% sure on how the pitch will behave. Every member of the team that played the last match are able to play on this pitch. I believe there is no need for any major changes.
And on that note, we wrap up tonight's edition of Primetime News. Coming to you, of course, from the Capital Maharaja Organisation head office in Colombo, in the backdrop of the relief efforts undertaken by the Sirasa Shakti Sahanayatra initiative. You too are welcome to hand in your donations to the MTV MBC drop-off points at Ratmalana, Depanama and Braybrook Place to support those affected by the drought in 14 districts in Sri Lanka. I'm Sonali Wanigabadage, wishing you a very good night.